what they always tell me when I walk over, you know, it's been a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Where would you guys like me to go?
And you have everything you need.
Clicker, is this one?
Yes, that's a clicker.
Suppose now you're gonna tell me silence my phone.
I had no idea. Didn't was playing Springfield. I had to read. Well, let me know. What did you hear? Ryan. I'll take you something.
Okay.
Where'd you guys like me to sit? Better.
Or you can talk.
I'm team.
Yeah, just like somewhere in the back probably is good.
Do you need?
And will I just tell you the time after, or
Or here's this. Here's the sheet.
I write it down?
Excuse me.
You're all right.
I got that.
I don't know how they sit and this.
They're super uncomfortable, aren't they? I know.
We are live streamed.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll give us a stimulus just for desks.
Excuse me.
Ergonomic seating.
Yeah. Lounge chairs, especially with these. The game consoles. So now there's
Yeah.
no room
No, you can't.
for anything.
Oh, man.
I like
That would make more
the
sense.
tables.
We already
did test this one.
We're trying to kind of, and then, you know, little by little, get switched over to.
Your grandma coming here? She's not.
His band is family.
Yes, I have.
Oh my.
Did you pick the first slot, or did you just get the first one?
I just got it.
Just got it?
Yeah.
Well, you'll feel great the rest of the night.
Yeah.
His grandmother and I were in the same class in high school.
Wow.
Obviously, other kinds.
Yeah. Not everything.
My husband, does his thing. Oh. You don't get to sit with your sleep. But he loves deer camps. Just tell us.
It is a mess. Right, it's that, so it's fine. Just have this is fine.
Yeah, okay. But you know, we do have to make sure.
This is fine.
Okay.
Your rig was a real project. Because it's big. Oh, you did? Where else?
Who's the best ones?
Oh, that's a good start. I'd start there.
Going to the business.
That will be really good.
Yeah, I had forgotten that.
It's grown, yeah. not since I was in.
I'm sure you were ready for that.
Mr. Spence, do we have to wait till exactly 5 o'clock? Okay, just checking.
Yep, you do. Just 3 more.
3 minutes,
2.
Okay.
For sure, Andy and Patty, I'm sure how they. Yeah. She changed jobs last year and she's so much happier in her new job. And she hasn't been in the office a single day.
All right, I think we're ready to begin. Just a reminder, we are being live streamed. And judges have everything all set to go. Our presenter ready?
Yes. Are my judges ready?
All right.
When I was 7 years old, my father took me hunting for the first time. And during this hunt, we got to experience a lot of things. I got to see my first deer, and I happened to kill my first deer. And it happened to be a large 10-point buck. And ever since then, I've had a great love for this game. And ever since then, when I was asked the question of what I want to be when I grow up, I would always say conservationist. And to do this, you have to know how to balance and maintain the environment to keep it healthy. And the problem with this is that people they don't like hunting because they think it's cruel to the animals and that it's bad for the environment, and conservationists stop this. Hello, my name is Guinness, and I will be talking about the importance of hunting, and first why it's important to me. My family has 2,000 acres of land, and this is it right here. This first half right here is in Missouri. The second half is in Arkansas, and my grandpa has had it for 27 years, and he has been hunting ever since then. He taught my dad how to hunt, and my dad's passed it on to me, and it has caused me to have a great love for this game. And I've always wanted to become a conservationist. I've dreamed of it forever. And to do this, you have to know about wildlife management. Now first, without any regulation, conservationists conservationists will not know what conservationists will allow animals to not have any animal overabundance, And this, if there was animal overabundance, the animals could die off quickly because of disease or weather or any natural causes, and the conservation would rather see people hunt instead of these animals die in a cruel way. One of my sources, his name is John Ackerson, and he works for the Conservation Department in West Plains, and 60% of the time his job is to go down to the rivers in Missouri and look for this hellbender, which is a larger type of salamander. It's about 1.5 feet long when they're full grown. And he goes down, looks for their habitat, and finds their eggs right here under rocks, and he takes them back to his lab. Now he does this because when women get in the river and they urinate in the water and they're on birth control, they make the men sterile, so the men are unable to fertilize the eggs themselves. So he takes them back to his lab and fertilizes them and places them back under the rocks so they can reproduce, because this is an endangered species. And the other percentage of the time he manages hunting seasons. And he does this by allowing the animals and the hunters to have a fair chance. For deer season, for example, is September to December, so this is the time of their breeding season, and they are most active during this time, so it gives hunters a fair chance. And their off time is January to August, so they have time to reproduce and not be hunted. And to be able to, or because of what conservationists do and establish hunting seasons, you're able to hunt. And most people like to hunt for a food source. Wild meat is proven to be a lot healthier and have more nutrients than any domestically raised farm animal. And a lot of people like this way of getting food. Excuse me. And in the last year, there was 750 million pounds of meat consumed by humans in the United States. And in order to obtain this food source, you have to know about the 3 types of hunting. The first type is subsistence hunting, and that is when you have to kill and eat wild meat in order to survive, or can obtain your cultural identity or tradition. This practice is not used very much in the United States today. The second is excuse me, market hunting, and this is hunting for commercial profit. So you kill an animal and sell it for commercial profit, and this was actually abolished in 2020, so it's not used in the United States anymore. And the last is recreational hunting, which is what most of us are used to today. It's hunting for the satisfaction, the meat, and the love of the game. And to do this, you have to do any of these types of hunting, you have to have your hunter safety. Now this course is 2 days long, and it's about 4 hours each day. You go in and take tests over this book, and you study this book before you go in, and you have to be at least 12 years old to be able to take this test, and you have to be 16 or under to not have your hunter safety, but you can still hunt with an adult, but you have to be 16. If you're 16, you have to have this to be able to hunt. The 6 main rules that are in the book and on the test are to always treat your gun like it's loaded, always identify your target before shooting, always keep your gun on safety unless you're shooting, don't point the weapon at something you don't intend to shoot, always control the direction of your muzzle, and never hunt with anyone who doesn't observe these basic rules of hunting. And it also talks about the different types of firearms used to kill animals and for different seasons, so like rifles, muzzleloaders, pistols, and shotguns, and then the different types of archery like compound bows, crossbows, and longbows. Now with all this research about hunting, I wanted to make something for my family and I that we could hunt out of, so I decided to make a hunting stand. And this is my base part. And we started with the top here when it was on the ground, and we built it out of 2x6s, made the frame, and then cut two evenly cut pieces of plywood and added to the top for the floor. and then we attach the legs at a 7-degree angle to get some look, and then attach these cross beams right here first, and then it wasn't stable enough, so then we attached the bottom ones here, and you can't move it. And then after that, we built this add-on piece right here, so when you walk up the ladder, when you're up there, you can open the door and not fall off. So that was very nice. That was a good idea. And then we built and attached the ladder last. Each step is a foot apart and at an angle, so it's easy to walk up. Now for the blind part, we started with the interior walls here and made these windows on 3 of the sides, a 1.5 feet apart, so there's plenty of room to shoot out of. And then the back wall has space for the door. And then we cut and placed the plywood on the outside and the door and the wall with the door and left space for the door. And then we built the roof that goes from 6 inches right here all the way down to 2 inches so that it's at a slant so all the rain and debris can wash off. And we put tin so it's more durable and stuff runs off of it easier. And then lastly, we built and installed the door on the back, and this was probably the thing that was the hardest. Here's the view here's the little add-on piece right here and the floor up here. And then here's me finishing up the ladder, finishing up the roof, the braces, and then me sitting in my stand right here on the ground. And there's also a lot of challenges with this product. First, with the building portion of it was definitely the door. We had to cut down the plywood for the door many, many times. And it took us a long time to get it to even open and close. Then we had added the hinges, and they had to be, each 3 hinges had to be evenly placed so that it would open properly. After we got it to open, the hinges started squeaking really bad, so we had to loosen them, put WD-40 on them, all that good stuff. Then we finally got it to work. And then waiting for material was very difficult because when I first ordered all my material, it was definitely not enough. And we had to order 3 more times, and there's days that I couldn't even work on it because I didn't have my material on. And lastly, putting the blind on the base. We have not done this yet, but we plan to loop chains through the windows and lift it up with the tractor and lift it up onto the base and then secure it down with bolts in each corner and each side. Excuse me. There's also product benefits with this. It gave me and my family a place to hunt, which is mostly the main thing, and we have this big field that we've been needing a blind on for a long time now, and it's given us that. And it would only cost me $650 to make instead of $2,000 right here like this one that we usually have, and my father definitely likes that better. And then it also helped me with my woodworking skills. I've never built anything this big. And I love doing it, and I hope to do it again sometime. If my dad never took me hunting when I was 7 years old, I wouldn't be the person I am today, and I wouldn't love this game that I love, and I definitely want to become a conservationist. And I hope to keep the environment balanced and healthy in the future, and I hope to pass this tradition down onto my children. Thank you. Do my judges have any questions?
I had one where you said that I think hunting hunting animals to get meat is significantly better for the environment than farming them.
Yes.
You want to tell me why?
It's a lot more healthier for animals to be wild than domestically raised, and it's a lot healthier for humans to eat this wild meat than farm-raised animals.
So you're opposed to farming?
No, I'm not opposed to it. It's just it's healthier. Yes.
As an aspiring conservationist, what do you see as the greatest help to the threat of our Ozarks ecosystem?
The greatest health.
I meant greatest risk.
The greatest risk is
Problem.
is probably conservation, having shorter hunting seasons or even abolishing some hunting seasons because animals are not at a big growth of population. So then it could cause overabundance, and that could cause animals to die off, and it'd be even worse.
Again, with your product, you talked about we did this. And did you have a mentor for?
Yeah, me and Mr. Bell
outside?
and Gabe did quite a bit too.
Okay, and the reason it's in 2 pieces now, I'm guessing that's for transport.
Yes, it's gonna be
What are you gonna use to transport it?
trailer, 8-foot long trailer or 12-foot.
You think we're
It'll
ready? Oh, sorry.
It'll take 2 trips.
Yeah.
Are you ready to go on a bear hunt?
Not really, no.
So when you take it out of the woods, how are you gonna make sure that it's level?
We'll probably dig holes in the ground to put the legs in, and then it'll be level like that. Yeah, and more
Is it made
stable.
with pressure treated wood then, the legs?
Yes.
Okay.
You mentioned a lot of the guns too. Do you do muzzle loading, or what kind of guns do you use to finger?
I use rifles and shotguns. I use rifles for deer hunting, and then shotguns for turkey hunting, and then I'll use smaller guns like 22s for smaller game, and then I also, early in the season, for deer season, I use a crossbow.
Very nice.
Went out and went back in. Oh, magic touch.
I guess so.
I'll look at the mouse works now. How does it work? Let's see.
Or you gotta do it with the mouse, don't you? That's the,
No, mine won't work with the
well,
mouse.
mine wasn't working at
You
all.
don't, you just put it on the letter, not the little.
Oh, okay.
Oh, put it on the
not
letter?
Put it on the letter, not the dot.
dot. Okay, good to know.
There you
You
go.
might wanna,
That's something everybody needs to know.
because I kept clicking on the dot and
Yes,
Yeah,
me
no,
too.
it's, you click on the letter.
you gotta click on
the dot.
Well, mine clicks on that.
the like
Oh,
right there,
okay.
no, but if you go there, you can. So click on the letter. I don't know, then I guess
Okay.
maybe not all of them, but.
Some may want them and some.
No, this stuff is all mine. Is this room 128?
Yes.
Well, this is not even where it says it's where I'm supposed to be, but I couldn't even get into this when I put my information. And I didn't want to interrupt, because it said it's being filmed, so.
Well, I think we just had 4 judges scheduled for this room, is what the little.
Okay, I was just sent to the wrong one. And it says that on my stuff before I even got this, if this is the room I'm supposed to be in.
5:20. So you were just early.
You were
So
just
you got
early.
you got the next
Oh.
one. Yeah, so you're in good shape. You're ready to go
You're here now.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
we're
you're,
ready.
you're
Yeah.
good for the next one.
I'm ahead of the game. So let's make sure I can,
Log in and.
so this should just come on when I put in mine.
I'm good. Oh, so we missed Thanksgiving.
Yeah, just put them on.
Yeah,
the
but I
side.
told you.
It's okay.
Sorry.
Well, that would give me a hug.
Thank you. You're gonna stand right there.
Wow.
So glad to have you back. I
I'll be
wish I
back for
were
the one
here.
after this.
Yes. But I know she waited till I left to come back. That doesn't hurt my feelings in the least. Oh. Is that true?
You can just pick a spot.
Yeah,
I just put in my number, right?
just move your mouse.
Now, because we have you in here, we're going to remind you that we are live streamed, everything you say.
Really?
Yes.
Hey, they told me the same thing. I don't think it's really being live streamed, I think they're just trying to shut us up.
Definitely.
Yeah, like that stopped us before a live stream.
All right.
Now we have to. Oh, it didn't matter. Absolutely.
Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you.
4 months for 15 minutes.
I know.
I'm giving you that. You can say where it is.
Thank you for helping out.
Is it in here too?
Yeah, I'll go flash it.
Where is this?
Oh,
This is the.
you have an extra right here. I'm so sorry. There we go.
You know. Is it still open?
I'm putting in the numbers.
It's been a while. Had him in kindergarten.
Yes. Why don't you try this one?
Okay.
You're just having all kinds of issues, aren't you? So I'm going to do this. Wait till she gets logged in. Remove it once.
That's good now.
Is there a clicker for this?
Right.
Is there a clicker for this?
Yes, right here. One thing I do know. Okay. Our judges all set to go? Okay. Just a reminder, we are live streamed. And is our presenter ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Is my slide put
Yes.
there?
Uh-huh.
Are my judges ready? The new normal in America is to go to college, get in debt, spend the next 20 years paying off your debt while making less money than expected, and often not being happy with your career.
That's not yours? No. Oh, that's Gannon's. I'm at a loss.
Check drive.
Oh, we'll come.
Uh-huh. So what do we get?
Just click on that.
There you go.
There we go.
We'll just start over.
Slideshow up at the top.
Do we start with this one? Or?
Yeah.
Oh. I shouldn't be at this spot.
Okay. Are my judges ready? Alright. The new normal in America is to go to college, get in debt, spend the next 20 years paying off your debt while making less money than expected and often not being happy with your career. Hi, my name is Sydney Collins. Students who pursue a career in the skilled trades are likely to earn higher wages, accumulate less debt, and acquire skills that can help them throughout their lifetimes. When a young adult graduates high school, like I'm about to, they're faced with a few options. The one that's pushed on the high schoolers the most is to go to college and obtain a career from there with their degree. The next one that's pushed not as much, not nearly as much, is to go to trade school or some kind of vocational school for the specific career they're wanting to go into, like nursing or a carpentry school or welding school. And the last option is to go straight into the workforce with no education other than a high school diploma. So I personally think that going into a trade-oriented career is the best option, and if a young adult does plan to go that way, I think the best option is for them to go to a trade school. Trade school is cheap and quick. It usually takes 6 to 10 months to complete a trade school program and obtain a certificate, and usually only costs around $33,000 for the entire completion of the program. This, compared to a bachelor's degree, is a third of the cost, and on average, a person with a certificate from a trade school program makes $2,000 more a year than someone with a bachelor's degree. Another reason to join the skilled trades is that job opportunity and demand is soaring, especially right now, and it usually is. Reasons for this is young adults are often discouraged from joining the skilled trades, so that's creating a gap, and there's workers that need to fill the gap, so there's always going to be a job opportunity while there's still that gap. If a person does go to trade school and then decides to join the trades, their opportunity is even higher, as it shows their future employer that they are willing to learn trade and that they're not just looking for a quick job. Retirement is becoming a huge issue within the trades. This is creating more demand. For every one person who joins the trades, 5 retire. So and that's only growing. So there's a huge number of retirement compared to how many people are going in. And lastly, the age gap is huge in the trades. Over 53% of people in the skilled trades are over the age of 45. So the vast majority of people in the skilled trades are getting older and getting towards retirement. Another reason to join the skilled trades is pay. For example, a carpenter, apprentice level, national hourly wage is $25.50 an hour. That's well above the national average. And this can be done with little to no debt. Another example would be an electrician. They have to obtain a certificate usually, but they can make $60,000 a year, and that's with little debt. So that's also well above the national average for a career. Another reason to consider for joining the skilled trades is that college can be unsatisfactory for a lot of people. Over 70% of people who go to college make less than they're expecting to make. This can become a huge problem whenever you have a budget set up before going to college and you plan it for whenever you get out of college, you have it planned for how much money you're going to make. And then you get out and you make less money than expected, and you can run into some issues with not having enough money for what you have planned. Another thing is jobs. We'll move on to unemployment. Unemployment is pretty high among college people with college degrees. In 2018, the American workforce had an unemployment rate of 3.8%. 3.7% of that was people with college degrees. For jobs, over 50% of people who go to college don't actually go into a career that requires their specific degree that they got. So that is pretty broad, and it's worth mentioning that most of these people are still going into careers that do require a college degree, but not in the particular one that they went to school for. So that means while they do need a college degree to get into their job, they wasted those years pretty much and spent all that extra money on a specific degree that they didn't really need. The most important consideration of all, in my opinion, on why to join the skilled trades would be the state of well-being amongst tradesmen is extremely high, especially compared to other career paths, predominantly against white-collar. Blue-collar workers have a far higher state of well-being than white-collar workers. They're happy to know that they can go to work and make a difference and make good money and support their families while they're doing it. So my research led me to my product because there's a big stigma around trade work that it's extremely challenging and not everyone can do it. I believe this is just flat out wrong, and so I wanted to go out and prove that that's not true. This is my product. This is it's called a patio overhang. It's a truss style, as it's got exposed trusses. This is the backyard of my house. We have a pool in this area, so we're going to use it in the summer as shade, and it can protect us from the elements and things like that too. It's also just a nice feature to have on a house, and it raises the house's value. So here's some pictures of kind of the process that I went through to build this product. When we started, we took a transit laser and we figured out how level the pad was, the concrete pad. It was pre-existing, so we had to figure out how level it was in order to figure out how long the posts needed to be. Once we had that figured out, I moved on. I cut these trusses out of a 4x6 pressure treated pine, and I obtained those steel plates from Clint Stalba at Stalba Muffler. I went with a 512 roof pitch slope to get all my cuts and figure out all the necessary measurements that I needed. Once I had those done, I actually covered them up, and so that seems a little bit out of order, but I covered them up to keep them from getting warped, and I moved on to setting the posts and the beams. And then this is a picture of how I have the beams connected into the house, because you have to have a solid connection, otherwise it'll pretty much just fall off your house. Once I had the posts and beams up, I was ready to move onto the trusses. I got the trusses set on top of the post and beam. I got them plumbed, and I got them braced. After that, I moved on to the roof system, which is a rafter style. There is a laminated beam in there, which is 2 2x4s and a sheet of plywood between them that have been glued and screwed. This is one of the strongest ways to make a beam without using steel. I tried to keep the cost down, so I didn't use hardly any steel other than the plates that I got from Clint. After I had that done, I moved on to the OSB sheathing. If you're familiar with lumber at all, you know that around here what's common is a 7/16 OSB. This is what's most common in most areas, but for a roof system like this, those are on 16-inch. I decided that would probably be a better idea to go with a 1/2-inch OSB, which I had to go to Springfield to get, just in case someone's walking on the roof, snow loads. There's a couple different factors to take in on why it was smarter to go a little bit thicker on the roof sheet. When I had that on there, I moved on to the synthetic underlayment. That's what this is here. What that does is give another layer of moisture protection for the OSB sheathing. If you are familiar, you know that OSB, when it's wet, it pretty much is useless past that point. If it does get wet for any long period of time, it'll start to flake and it'll greatly reduce its strength. Once I had that on there, I moved on to the shingles, and that was the last step. This project took me around 5 months to complete, and that was primarily done after school and then after work. So most of it was done at dark, at night in the dark. So that does make it take about 2 times as long. So it could have been done in a lot quicker time span than 5 months. Cost of construction was around $2,500, which is a lot less than most people expect it to be. And that's just another reason to say that it doesn't take somebody with a lot of money or with a lot of knowledge and skill to get into this. You can get into it if you have the drive to do it. Construction was done by myself primarily. Anything that I needed help with, as far as lifting or figuring out some things I didn't know, I asked my dad, which he's back there at the back. And also my mentor was Mark Bowen, which is a local contractor to the area, and he's extremely skilled and knowledgeable on just about anything when it comes to carpentry. So he was a great asset to have to help with some problems that I had. Some of the challenges I did have, the first one was heavy lifting. Those trusses have a span of around 16 feet, and as you've seen that one picture, they were about up to here on me. So they were extremely heavy, especially being pressure treated. So my dad and I sat down trying to figure out how we were going to do this. Initially, we planned on trying to use ladders and a few guys. We thought about it a little more and decided that probably wasn't a good idea. So we got a backhoe. My dad sat in the backhoe and operated the bucket, and I got on a ladder and maneuvered that truss where it needed to be on top of the beams, and then fastened it down and made sure it was plumb, and that's whenever we put the braces on, just to keep it plumb. The second challenge that I ran into, I don't have much shingling experience, so I didn't really know exactly what to do here. As you can see, these shingles are 2 different colors. That's not an accident. The rest of the house will be replaced with these shingles this summer. So what I had to do was find a temporary but waterproof measure to tie the shingles in together. This project could have got a lot more expensive if I wouldn't have got that waterproofing measure right, and if water would have got into the house, into the ceilings, and everything else that we got actually inside of the house. So what I decided to do, I talked to my dad and to Mark, and this is kind of the best idea we came up with for a temporary solution. I cut 2 inches up from the true valley in a parallel line with the valley to the peak. So this cut line is actually not in the true valley. What that does is it allows water to run down the true valley, which is on top of these gray shingles, and away from that seam. If the seam was in the middle, then there would be more chance for water to run up under there. Now, while that does help, that's not going to keep all the water from getting near that seam. So I also laid a bead of roofing tar down the shingles, just to make sure for certain that there's no water going to get under there. And so far, we haven't had any issues with it. So I'm glad to say that it worked out good. So while students are persuaded to go into a college-oriented career, I think people would be happier and live a better life if they would join the skilled trades. Thank you. Do my judges have any questions?
How much experience did you have prior to doing this?
I have been in Votech for 2 years, so I have some experience there. Other than that, I've done smaller jobs for people. I've helped my dad with some things, and that's pretty much it. So not a ton, but not a ton hands-on, I'll say.
Right.
I'm one of the kind of people, I'm interested in this. So you can ask my parents pretty much every night. I'm looking at YouTube videos, or I'm reading something about it, or something like that. So I've got a lot more knowledge than I do hands-on experience,
Right.
which came in.
That's evident.
Yeah, thank you.
So what are you in 10 years? What are you doing in 10 years? Are you in this business, or are you?
Yes, so I work at Wagner's, and right now my plan is I have A+. I have the A+ scholarship. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to West Plains and get a business degree at MSU West Plains. And then I plan on going out and working for someone for a few years. And then hopefully 10 years from now, I'll have my own company and I'll be building houses. That's my end goal.
How much was it per square foot? You said it wasn't really expensive to get in and stuff, but things are going up. How much did you have per square foot?
Are you talking on lumber or?
Well, what you had in total, what it cost.
I don't know the exact square footage price. Yeah, I know that I didn't really keep up with the price, like as in square footage. I kept all the receipts on everything like that, but I didn't factor that in.
Because it's not this money.
If I asked Dad how much it cost, would he be able to tell me?
I don't know if you would know the square footage price either.
No, I'm just saying.
That's a pretty
Would he-
broad statement, because are you referring to like shingles or plywood?
Well, I was just wondering, when you got finished, what you had in, you said 2,000.
2,000.
But what did that come out per square foot?
How big is the structure?
Right.
So it's 16 by, what is it, 8, 12?
16 by
20. Yeah, 20, yeah.
2,500?
Yeah. And that was when prices were high, so it's not.
I mean, I don't know crap, but that sounds good to me.
Yeah. Wasn't too bad.
Well, according to this, it's like $7.80 a square foot or something like that. That's not bad. You done all that for 2,500, which is pretty good.
Really.
Yeah, which a lot of cost in construction is actually for labor. So material, all I had to buy was material. I didn't have to pay anybody to do anything, so.
You said your 10-year program was to have your own business, all that. Do you plan on just jumping into it, or do you plan on doing an apprenticeship? I know there's levels of things.
So that depends. As of now, I plan on staying local, so there won't really be much of a apprenticeship. Apprenticeship is really broad. Like on a union scale, they have, the Department of Labor has, like, it's actually a legit thing, but around here, apprenticeship is usually 4 years, so I could technically call myself an apprentice for 4 years and then decide that I want to call myself something different, but I don't think I would be labeled on a technical stance as something else than just a laborer and then a contractor. Because if I don't stay around here and I was to go to Springfield or something like that, there's a lot more regulation there.
Right.
And so there I would be, an apprentice for this long, and then I would be a journeyman is the next step, and then after that it's a master. So if I stay around here, I'll just be a laborer, and then I'll eventually have my own company and just be a contractor.
I know I asked a lot of questions.
That's fine.
But through that process, if you do the apprenticeship, journeyman, and masters, with that time you got there on your own, wouldn't that allow you to make more money or bring in more money or?
Yeah. So as far as I know, this is what I've been taught by my VOTEC instructor. To obtain something like that, we gotta pretty much either go union or go to a city.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he explains it is, when you're in the union, you'll make more money and you'll have a lot more benefits, and that scale stays within the union, kind of. So if I was to leave the union or to leave a commercial area like that and come back here, it wouldn't be the same. My work could speak for itself. I may get paid more because of my work, I may get more work because of my work, but it wouldn't be like if I was gonna go do a job for Mr. Hall, he wouldn't pay me more automatically because I'm a journeyman carpenter. He would pay me more because of what I've done and my experience as in time in the field. That's how I've been explaining it, and I think that's kind of how it works. So
Thank you.
yeah.
All
right.
What's that? What is that? What's that thing down there? Yeah, no, up above, yeah, right there. No, right below. Is that a hammer?
Yes.
Got it. Got it.
You're ready to go.
I'm halfway there.
All right.
Oh, man.
Okay, let's give him a hand too.
Good job. Good job, Mom.
My dad, it's raised, and he put in extra beams to support us. But they are in high school for
A lot of that is later.
I've got it on mine.
Yeah. Yep.
I didn't go with it.
Yeah. Some people are a little proud of their work, but
Okay, what if your judges can't type?
Well, yeah, I'm in the same boat. I've already read it, I've had it online, thank you.
Do you have hers?
I got it.
Okay.
No. I'm just patient.
Oh. I'll get this.
Yeah.
Wait, right here.
No, by the yellow button that says share.
Oh, right there. Why is it?
And then she'll have the clicker.
Need this.
Thank you.
Okay, are our judges ready? And presenter, we are being live streamed, just a reminder. Yes, and you're supposed to stand behind that white line.
Yeah.
So
I'm supposed to do,
the camera can
there's a part to my speech where I move.
Okay.
Are my judges ready? Growing up, I've always had a very strong love of learning, and I've always been very passionate about gaining new knowledge. I've also been very passionate about passing on that knowledge to my friends and family. I love that sense of pride I got whenever I understood something and comprehended it. And I also liked even more watching other people and being a part of helping them understand things and just educating them. So I thought for my senior project, it was only fitting that I be a part of educating people, and the topic I chose to talk about is the healthcare field. Hi, my name is Aubrey McNew, and I believe that entering the healthcare field allows you to choose from a wide variety of job opportunities and gain new knowledge every single day. I chose the healthcare field because going into my junior year, I decided to go to South Central Career Center and go to the Health Science 1 class. And in this class, I gained just a bunch of cool, vital knowledge. Honestly, just knowledge you need to go into a wide variety of healthcare careers. You learn how to intubate people, how to take vital signs. You learn CPR and how to draw blood, just cool stuff like that. You also gain a bunch of knowledge on a bunch of common diseases and sicknesses. You learn about different breaks and just a bunch of stuff like that. And you just learn how to take care of people in their time of need. This class really just opened my eyes to how vast the healthcare field is and how cool it is and how much I wanted to be a part of it and how much I wanted to be a part of improving people's quality of life and just being for them in their time of need. It also opened my eyes to the fact that I don't like touching people. I don't like them touching me, and I don't want their sweat, their other body fluids. I just don't want any part of it. So it introduced me to the medicine side of things, pharmacy. So going into this year, I decided to take the pharmacy tech class. And in this class, I kind of just learned the basic rundown of a bunch of different pharmacy settings because, you know, a pharmacy setting is different in the ER than it is in, say, inpatient. It's different than it is in like retail, like Walgreens or Walmart. And you kind of just learn how each different pharmacy tech does their own thing and how you learn about all these different medicines and all the interactions they have with different medicines, what you take for certain things, what you don't take. You honestly just learn just the basics about all things medicine. You learn about different syringes and needles and how you do IVs and stuff like that. So by doing this, I still get to be part of improving people's lives, but I don't have to touch them and they don't have to touch me. So for my research, I talked a little bit about alternative versus conventional or traditional healthcare. Alternative is kind of less science-based and more just naturally letting your body heal itself with a little push. There's not really much medicine in it. These things include chiropractics, massage therapy, acupuncture, and oriental medicine, things like that. And then conventional is, science and fact and medicine. So it's doctors, nurses, it's prosthetics, dentistry, it's eye doctors, and all those kind of things. Whenever you think about healthcare careers, it's kind of those things. It's kind of the first things that pop into your head. So in my research, I kind of gave a brief description of a couple different careers in both categories. I talked about the requirements, both educational and just like personal, to be in those positions, and I talked about I discussed your general job description, just what you'll be doing day to day. Going into this, I wanted to accomplish a couple different things. I not only wanted to further my knowledge on the healthcare field and just learn more about it, but I also wanted to share the knowledge. I really wanted to get it out there that it's so broad and there's so many different things to it, because I remember when I was in middle school, I really just thought it was just doctors and nurses and stuff like that. So secondly, I wanted to really get the kids interested. I really wanted to be part of them feeling that pride when they gained the knowledge that I was giving them. I wanted, even if it was just for the day, I wanted the kids to feel excited about being part of something bigger than themselves, like helping people and just working in the healthcare field. I also wanted them to know that you don't have to go to a bunch of school to be in the healthcare field. Because whenever I was in middle school, I thought, I'll never be in the healthcare field because I don't want to go away to college for 8 years. But I wanted them to know that there's tons of different jobs that you can just go and get on-the-job training, or there's just programs you can go to get the training. And I just really wanted to emphasize that there's so many different directions you could go. Anybody could be a part of it and still be doing what they want to do. So for my product, I held an assembly on Friday, January 21st with the 7th grade during their elective class. I had 2 speakers plus myself, Dr. Shaw and OB nurse Brianne Holmes. My goal in this assembly was to kind of introduce them to some of their local healthcare professionals that they may not know. And I wanted them to get just a general idea of what they do and why they do it. So I had Nurse Holmes talk about why she's a nurse, what it took to get there, and would she do anything different. Because before she was a nurse, she was LPN, and so she kind of talked about the steps that she took to get from one to the other, and she also just talked about why she loved her job and why she loves being a part of women whenever they're being a part of women's pregnancies and stuff like that. And I also had Dr. Shaw discuss the different directions you can go when being a doctor. He discussed being a dermatologist. He talked about how you could go and be in cardiology, you can go and work in dermatology, and you can go and work in neuro. He kind of just gave general descriptions of each of those different paths, and he kind of also discussed the different education requirements, but he also really emphasized his main point that I asked him to point out was to emphasize that you learn every single day, no matter how long you've been in the field. You learn. You continuously learn, and it's not like you sit in the classroom and you learn, because I knew middle schoolers weren't really going to be interested in that. They'd be like, oh, more school, you know? But I really wanted them to know that it's like fun learning, you know? You sit there and you learn without even realizing you're learning. And so I thought he did a really great job of that, and he got the kids really into it, and it was super great. Anything you do, there's going to be challenges. So the first challenge I faced, honestly, was deciding what direction to go with my project, because I knew going into this, I wanted to be a part of educating people, and I knew that I wanted it to be with the middle school. So my original idea was a job fair. But, you know, I wanted to do middle school, and I was set on middle school, and I knew that if I sent the middle schoolers out and told them to go talk to who they thought was interesting, they wouldn't really do it much. They'd go find their friends, and they'd kind of talk to them, and they'd kind of just waste the people's time that had come and asked. So I decided to have an assembly. I decided that I had to sit them down and talk to them directly in order for them to listen, you know. And then the other issue I faced was, as I said earlier, I had 2 speakers plus myself. But I originally had 3 speakers plus myself. I had a pharmacist, a doctor, a nurse, and myself. But a couple days before my project, my pharmacist contacted me and told me he could no longer get somebody to come and cover for him in the pharmacy. And as you know, in a pharmacy, the pharmacist has to be there at all times in order for it to be running. So because his relief pharmacist was sick, he could not come. So what I did was I increased my speaking time by about 5 minutes, and I also asked Dr. Shaw to increase his speaking time. And if you know Dr. Shaw, you know that was not an issue for him. He was just so full of knowledge, and he interacted with the kids so great, and honestly it ended up being fine. He even touched on pharmacy for me, which was super great, and it was just awesome. There's Dr. Shaw talking, there's all of us after, and then there's me. You couldn't tell in the picture, but I was really shaking. Middle schoolers terrify me because, you know, I was a middle schooler not very long ago, and they're judgy and kind of really not interested in anything that you send them out to do. Going into this, I knew I really wanted to just share my love and passion for learning, and I wanted to educate people on the things that I've learned over the past couple of years about the healthcare field. And I feel like I really accomplished that, and I'm very thankful to have been able to share my knowledge with the 7th graders and get some of our local healthcare professionals involved with it. Thank you. Do my judges have any questions?
What kind of questions did they ask you at the end of
The
this, or
students?
ask any of your speakers?
A lot of the questions were about, like, do you see a lot of blood, and do you see a lot of, yeah, it was a lot of typical middle school questions, and they asked Dr. Shaw if his family gets discounts, like, on doctor's visits and stuff like that. But they also asked about a bunch of different schooling for, like, being a veterinarian, and just a bunch of different stuff he didn't really mention. And even if he didn't have, you know, the exact answer, he'd give them a brief explanation, like, oh, it's probably like 6 to 8 years, you know, just stuff like that.
So you say you're interested in the pharmaceutical field. You know, pharmacists today have to give immunizations and things like that, and you said you have an issue with bodily fluids and things. So are you good with that?
No, you see, I like that stuff. I'm really weird about it. I'm really picky about that kind of stuff. So, like, I'm fine with the needles and the immunizations and stuff like that. I just, you know, nurses, they pick people up. And, like, in the pharmacy tech class, I learned how to properly pick people up and maneuver them. And I just didn't really want that. And I also didn't want to, like, wipe butts and stuff like that, you know? So I'm, like, fine with that stuff. But just not that stuff, you know?
How do you feel South Central Career Center has prepared you? Has that been a good choice?
Well, I have learned a lot about how, going into it, I really thought that all pharmacy techs did like the same thing, and I've learned that ER does a completely different thing, and they have completely different tasks than like an inpatient nurse. Like inpatient, they don't even talk to the people. Like that would be more for me, honestly. You don't really talk to the patients and stuff. You just kind of fill the medicine and take it where it needs to go and make IVs and stuff. Whereas ER, you go and you get a list of what they take and what they're supposed to be taking, so that way you don't give them something to kill them, you know? And just all that stuff. And really, I feel like I've just gained a all-around better understanding of the human body and just everything whenever it comes to sickness and stuff like that.
So what's your next step? What will you do now in the healthcare field?
Well, I'm going to move up to Springfield to go to cosmetology school, actually. there's a switch for you, but
But you gotta touch people.
that's their hair, that's not their butts. But I'm going to be it's kind of just a filler, you know, because I'm going to go be a pharmacy tech up in a hospital in Springfield. Kind of just to see if I really want to pursue that and go to school for that. So that way I'll still have this thing I could go do if this doesn't work out, or I could go do this if this doesn't work out, you know? I think they're both pretty cool.
Is that it? Thank you.
And then our next one is
3 of them.
It's going good. For some reason, it made that loud beeping noise the last one. I don't know why. It scared me.
and we'll just give it
Still have slideshow?
Yes.
I just split up in this room all night. Okay, we're good.
Here, you want
It's not working at all.
Darren made it mark it down for that, right?
Well, I had a black screen and I had to know it's like my opening is a little, you know, it's just like.
If you start thinking, what do we got here?
Yeah, you gotta go on it.
I don't know.
Go right ahead.
How do you Yeah, but I have to log into the Chrome.
Mr. Spence.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, there we go, she's doing something.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. No. Here, come take this one, because I'm actually not supposed to do this one.
Oh, okay.
Well, we got 2 down then.
I'll check with Andrew to see what's going on with that. Let me make sure I'm not supposed to be at, what time is it? 6. No, I've got 6. Yeah, you take mine. You're welcome, just raise mine.
Yes. Okay, so what do I do? I'm trying to get this. Okay, all right. Sorry. No, I was talking, I didn't realize. And then I was oh, your magic. I could change direction. Today, what if anything? It doesn't happen very often, but I did today. I was supposed to be here for trees and stand up that road and got here 10 minutes late. Just a reminder, guys, we are live streamed. Everything you say is on live stream.
Judges all logged in?
Almost.
Almost, okay. Wait just a second.
Sorry.
Ready?
All right, judges, ready. Have you ever been in a dark place where you feel like you're all alone? Have you ever been tent camping and you hear something outside and you're like, whoa, this scared me, but I don't have the courage to go outside and see what it is? Have you ever been lonely at home and you just feel like you're down, but you can't get yourself up? Hello, my name is Kina Lowe, and I'm here to tell you that that thing that gets you back up, that thing that gives you the courage to go outside is God. Your godly relationship and your walk with God is very important. Living in today's world can be scary. You might feel like you're only there to support someone, or you might feel like someone is there in your life just to support you. And that may be the case. But through godly relationships and through your walk with God,
Something went wrong. Please try again.
I'm so sorry.
through godly relationships and through your walk with God, it can broaden your horizons and just tell you that God is there for you and you are there for others. I held a fifth quarter for my senior project. A fifth quarter is an event that is held after a sporting event that just allows kids to go somewhere and have a safe place to be instead of out for, say, partying after a basketball game or a football game. My fifth quarter was held after the boys' senior night, roughly 4 months ago. At my fifth quarter, I had guest speakers who were ministers. I had John White from Willow Springs and Richard Forshee from West Plains. These two ministers are ministers at Westside Church, and they are in the youth group. So I felt it was fitting that these guys spoke at my senior project, saying that I held my senior project for grades 5th through 12th. At my senior project, I had plenty of adults there to watch over kids and help kids in need. Sometimes kids are just there to, for say, go to a place after a game so they can hang with friends. But in my case, I was there to provide knowledge for kids about God. Through my research, I talked about how ministers at school can help a kid in their daily walk with God tremendously. If there wasn't a minister at school, like as in Willow Springs High School, we don't have a class, but we have ministers who are here throughout the day for those kids. In college, you have a religions class, but here at Willow Springs High School, we do not have that class. So I strongly believe that if we would put a class in for kids, we would have more kids going on their walk with God. Through my research, I figured out that only 20% of kids in today's world, teenagers specifically, only 20% of them know who God is and or go to church. So this really tugged at my heart. I was like, man, we really need to have people there for these teenagers in today's school. School is hard, but your walk with God and God being there for you through school will make that a lot easier. You're going to face multiple challenges. Not only can you go through them alone, because you can't. God is there for you to go through them with you. You are not alone in today's world in many aspects. In my project, when Mr. Forshee was done speaking, we played a group game. This game, you got in a circle and you just randomly reached across and you tied your hands together. These kids had to figure out how to get out of this circle. So putting their trust and figuring out that they are not alone and they can go through this was a big part of my senior project. Knowing that these kids were just there to inspire others was one of my major points that I had my two guest speakers hit hard on. So through this game, I figured out that there was normally one teenager or one person that took control. They stepped up, and maybe it was in their comfort zone, maybe it was out of their comfort zone, but they still stepped up and took the weight of that game on their shoulders. For me, that was the opposite of what I wanted this game to truly be. I wanted this game to be each individual person going out of their comfort zone individually and talking to others to try to get themselves out of this knot. But trial and error, it did not go that way. So then we played this game again, and I told them that each individual one of them had to figure out how to get their own hands out of their knot without the help of others. Through this game, they figured out that God is on their side, and I related that back to them by when you're in a knot in life and you can't figure out how to get out of it, you have to go to help. You have to go and ask for help. So these ministers at school would obviously give you that help that you were needing to get out of that knot. In my project, I had guest speakers introducing how God is always on your side and there for you. In my project, I had many teens. I had 66 total attendees at my project, and I had many of them come back to me at the end of the night and say, thank you, I appreciate this. It was a way that I could relate back to God, even if I was on the right track or the wrong track. I got to further my education in God by you having this fifth quarter. My whole project was over Deuteronomy 31:8. This was a very heart-touching verse for me. This verse states that God will never forsake you. This was obviously very touching for me because I wanted to be able to let these teens know that they are not alone in this process and they are not alone in their walk with God. That they would have to trust not only themselves, but they would have to put their trust in God to get to the afterlife and to get to heaven, where they eventually would hopefully spend eternity. In my project, our second game was a game where you had to trust your teammates to accomplish a task. Mr. Richard Forshee had them play a game where they set a cup on a chair and they had to shoot it with a Nerf gun. Obviously, the Nerf gun's aim was not accurate. So these kids were struggling by themselves to accomplish this task. After a couple of seconds, we let the team help in. We let the team help these kids knock this cup over off the chair. Some of the kids were smart and just went over and knocked it over with their hands, but the other ones were trying to throw the Nerf bullets at it. So this accomplished the fact that you had to not only rely on yourself, but rely on others around you to build you up to accomplish a certain task. Accomplishing a certain task and a specific task involves a lot of effort. It may be mental effort or physical effort. At my senior project, we required both mental and physical effort. Through my senior project, we played 2 main games and then we had a side game that the kids could play before they came in or just in between events. And this game was ring toss. We had 2 leaders and we had rings that you would toss onto these 2 leaders. You had to give physical effort to get these rings on that 2 leader. It wasn't just lack of daisy. You had to physically give effort to put on the rings onto that 2 leader. If effort isn't given, nothing is going to be done or go the way you planned. For example, just getting out of bed of a morning. If you don't give effort to physically sit up and get out of bed, you're not going to get out of bed. You have to physically put effort into your daily walk with God for Him to physically come down and touch you and make your walk with Him even stronger. Mr. Forshee hit a strong topic of you are who God sets you to be. Through this topic, I had a lot of kids that were just overpowered and touched really hard through this topic. We done a writing activity at my 5th quarter that I had the kids write who they thought they were, how others looked at them. We ripped those papers up and threw them in the trash. And then I had Mr. Forshee give them another piece of paper and they wrote on there who they think God thinks they are. This was very touching to my heart because I done this project with them beforehand and I done it with them as well. But beforehand, I wrote all the things that like kids see me as loud, kids see me as obnoxious, but I see myself as a God-following person. I have to speak my voice and speak my word for the God through me to get to these other kids. But these kids just think I'm loud and obnoxious and annoying, but really I'm just truly speaking the Holy Spirit through me to try to get these kids to follow God. Like I said before, only 20% of today's world knows about God or goes to church. So speaking the Holy Spirit through me is one of my major accomplishments that I have fully accomplished through my senior project. Knowing God is the creator of us all, it was a hard topic to get across to these kids, but throughout my research, I found it very easy to just let the kids know and give the kids a simple task as in read your Bible 5 minutes a day, and this will very easily flow through you and let God know that you are always there and He is always there. Some challenges I faced with my project was time management. I very first had my project scheduled and I played on the basketball team and we ended up having a basketball tournament that day. So I had to change my project. Then they planned Hoop Queen there. So then I had to change my project again, which is by no mistake, it happens. And the 3rd time I put my project was the very last day I could possibly put it. So I put it on the boys' senior night. I thought this was a good time to put it because there would already be a ton of kids at the game and just willing to go ahead and go to my 5th quarter. Little did I know, I found out that most kids had already planned to come to my 5th quarter, which was very heart-touching and moving toward me because these kids were willing to come to my project. Another thing that I really struggled with during my project was my games. I knew what games I wanted to play, and I knew what my ministers were going to talk about, but I didn't know how to tie the 2 together. But with help of my mentor, I knew what we were going to do and how we were going to do it just days before, but it all got planned out. Through my research, God is not about statistics. God is not about, I do 20% of this, you do 80% of this. God is about showing and doing. He's not gonna throw statistics at you. He's gonna be there for you no matter what. And I challenge you to spend 5 minutes a day in your Bible just to know that God is there and your walk with God matters. Now, that you were thinking, you spent 5 minutes in that tent reading your Bible, you knew you could go outside of that tent and defeat that creature. You weren't scared. You were in that deep, dark place at home, and you opened your Bible and you read the verse. And that really touched you, and you're like, I'm not alone. God is there. Thank you. Do my judges have any questions?
Was this the first topic that you had in mind, or were you choosing some others?
I knew that my relationship with God was something that I wanted to relate to the kids, but I didn't know how I was going to do it. So the topic was very fitting and appropriate for me, but it was not my first choice. My first choice was doing something related with my pigs. I chose swine, and that is something I'm very passionate about, but I was very fed up with them at the time. I had a breeding pig at home, and we did not think she was bred. And so I was very fed up with her. I really just wanted her to have piglets, but I was very fed up and done with her. So I was like, I'm not doing anything with pigs. And the second thought, I didn't even have to think about it. God just put it in my head that I want you to go show these kids, you know, what you can do through me. So, yes.
So, right now there's a big court case going on because of separation of church and state. So how did that play into your project as far as wanting to inspire the school to do like a religious class and bringing religion and, you know, your love of God into the school? How did that play into your project?
Well, I had to take my project as far as to the Board of Education to get it approved, because I did talk about God in my project and I wanted to do something more to do with God than myself. And that was really hard for me to be able to get the courage to go to the board to do that. But through just, you know, sitting down and knowing that I wanted to be passionate for God, the Quick Case really just inspired me, honestly, because I knew that most people would enjoy my project, hopefully, and want to know more. And in our community, we have many supporting youth groups, and I knew that if we could all get together and accomplish one task, that it would fulfill the school and the community needs.
Okay, if you could redo this project again, what is something you would change?
Something I would for sure change about this project is I did not advertise enough. I didn't get it out there in time. One, I didn't know the day, for sure, set in stone. But then two, I just didn't take the time to advertise it. I put it in the school bulletin, the middle school and the high school, and then I printed out a couple flyers to go to our churches, but I didn't put it in the town. I didn't really do anything but the school and the town and the couple stores in town. I didn't put it on social media. I didn't do anything like that. So I feel like to better my project, I would for sure advertise more. Any more? Alrighty. It's okay.
Good job, Tina.
Thank you.
Whoa! I was like, I say, how are you doing?
I don't know how that's a name on there, but
It just means that you put something.
Congratulations, Greg.
so it's not, I mean, now, finally, let me do that.
Hanging in everybody?
I'm hanging.
All right.
And then, okay, so this
You good,
is,
good, great.
thank you, sorry. No, it's okay, it's good. Nobody's able to technology.
I'm still in here, so I'm not.
Wow, respect, wow, that's respect.
And it scared me.
I'll scoot over to the other side.
I have no
Well, I like
idea
that
why it
corner.
went
It's a
off.
pretty nice No,
Are you
I'm
sure?
I'm kidding, yeah.
It's hard.
Like, I keep on pushing.
Click off to the side, with the letter.
Okay, alright, thank you.
Oh, I didn't know.
I had signed up for it, and I signed up for Aubrey's, but then realized, okay, I shouldn't be judging it, so I just decided, well, I wasn't gonna judge it. And then the next couple, and, Megan emailed me the other day, and said, can I change your schedule for you? And so she took me off of the one before Aubrey's, took me off the settings, which was fine, because I already made it anyway. Yeah. So, but I wanted to see his. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, but I think I have to
See. What?
I got the wrong. Yeah, that's who's next. You might be able to. No. Sorry.
That's all right.
Okay.
You just push, you just push each other.
I minded that earlier, I just went through and hit submit again, it took it, so I don't know.
Where you hit some of those ones. Can you see that? Oh, there we go, okay, I didn't.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much.
Are my judges ready?
Yeah.
Have you ever had to use a tool or piece of equipment that you found to be intimidating? So much so that just the thought of having to use that tool left you feeling uneasy, fearful even? I know that I have. Hello everyone, my name is Robert Jernigan, and for my senior project, I made it to remove this uneasy feeling or fear of using a new tool for all the students to take the woodshop class here at Willow Springs by improving the overall safety of the woodshop. Now, by improving the overall safety of the woodshop, what I end up doing is improving the overall safety of the workplace. Or workplace safety. Now, workplace safety is something that varies with every work environment and every profession, because after all, every work environment is different, and every profession has its own unique set of hazards. This is something I had to keep in mind when doing research for my product. I had to find broader factors that affect every work environment and profession. And one of the main factors I discovered to affect the safety and efficiency of the workplace was the amount of training that the workers had, or students in my case. Because after all, you can't expect people to just go into the workplace and already know how to safely and efficiently operate all of the tools and equipment without any kind of formal training. Now, thankfully here at Willow Springs High School, our woodshop teacher, Mr. Bell, does an excellent job of ensuring that all the students are properly trained before any projects start to take place. No matter how much experience the students have or how many times they've taken the class already, all the students are required to complete a written safety test as well as a practical test with all the tools and equipment. The written safety test ensures that the students have the knowledge they need to safely and efficiently operate all of the equipment. The practical test ensures that the students can take all of that newfound knowledge that they have and put it into practical application to safely and comfortably operate all of the tools and equipment. The next factor that I discovered to affect the safety of the workplace is maintaining a positive and safe culture within the work environment. Now, a safe culture refers to the mindset or behaviors that the workers have towards safety. An example of this would be that uneasy feeling or fear that I mentioned earlier. Because if you have a worker who is required to use a tool or piece of equipment that they're afraid to use, when they go to use that equipment, that fear can lead them to making a mistake and causing an accident, which is hazardous not only to themselves but everyone around them. Which leads me to my final factor, which is maintaining a positive and safe climate. A safe climate is the environment itself, so this will be the tools, the equipment, the machinery, the area around the equipment and machines, and any kind of like puddles or cables that are hanging, any slip or trip hazards that there are. Now, most facilities or factories have a division dedicated to this, and that is the maintenance branch. The maintenance branch job is to go around and to ensure that all of the equipment and machines are operating safely and efficiently and have all of the safety guards set in place and are not being bypassed. They are also required to improve the equipment if it has any safety faults that they notice. Now, obviously here at a school, we don't have this maintenance branch. So this is what I did for my product. I became the maintenance and improved the safety and efficiency. So why I chose my product was because I come from a family of people who built their own houses, and I've helped them with different projects and things like that. So woodworking is something I had experience in. So whenever I got into high school and saw that they had the woodshop class, it got me excited, a class that I enjoy to take and have experience and knowledge into. So then I went into the class and started taking it, and I guess my fellow peers noticed that I had this previous experience because they were constantly asking me, hey, can you help me cut this board? Hey, can you help me with my project? Hey, I need some ideas. And so I quickly realized that most of my time in the class was helping others. I enjoy helping others, this is fine, but I didn't have any time for myself to make my own projects. And so I started thinking, why do they keep asking me? And then I started thinking back to when I first started woodworking. And I remembered that uneasy feeling or fear of using the equipment. I didn't feel comfortable using it because it is, after all, large blades that are spinning really fast, designed to cut materials. It's intimidating. And so what I did was I went onto YouTube and tried to find different ideas and projects that can improve the safety and efficiency of the workshop. And that's where I got my idea. So what I did for my project was I made a miter saw table or workbench. Now, what we had before this was 2 metal filing cabinets and then a piece of plywood that's just the same thickness of the saw. So when you would put the saw on the board, on there, and you put like a 12-foot board, you'd have to have someone standing on the other end of the board to hold it, and then when you make the cut, the other end of the board, the piece that you're wanting, will fall down. Now this poses a couple hazards. The first one it poses is, take for instance, you have a cup of coffee sitting on the edge of a counter or a desk. If you bump it and it goes to fall, the natural reaction is to quickly reach and grab it, right? Now if you have this reaction with that board, you have the chance of letting go of the saw or hitting the saw with your hand when you reach over to grab the board. Now another hazard that this poses is when the board is cut, the other end can go up and hit the blade. And what this is called a kickback. So when the board hits the blade, it has a chance of throwing the board at you or chipping or damaging the blade and sending it flying. So the way that my table gets rid of this hazard is it extends the table over to where it has 6 foot of space on this side and then 2 foot over here. Now the 6 foot helps for like longer boards, and it offsets the flushness of the table. So like the table piece here is flush with this table piece. So when you cut the board, it doesn't fall or go down or go anywhere. It stays in that one spot. Now there were some challenges that I had with making this, and the first one was the design. So all I had for a design was this picture here. It doesn't offer any measurements or any details explaining how to fit the boards together. I had to break the picture down and figure out how each and every board fits together, and I had to measure the environment that I was given to figure out the total length that I needed and the distance for each individual board, and to figure out the measurements for them. Now the next challenge I had was I used rough sawn lumber like this, and this lumber was sitting out in the rain. So what would happen is when it would rain, the boards would expand and absorb that water. When I took it into the building and cut them down to the size that I needed, what would happen is it would dry inside the building and then it would split, twist, crack, or warp. And this posed challenges with fitting it up, Because in this picture here, you can see that the boards are fit together to form essentially a 4x4. And if I had a board that was twist or warped, what would happen is it wouldn't fit together properly, and it wouldn't be very structurally sound or aesthetically pleasing. Now another challenge that I quickly noticed in the finishing touches of it is when I put the saw down, I centered it perfectly in the middle of the table, thinking that this would work. But then I quickly realized that the shorter people in the class would not be able to reach the saw and operate it properly. And I had to figure out the exact distance I needed to get to where it didn't stick out too far. Because if it stuck out too far, the knob there that adjusts the angle would hit you and catch you, and that's hazardous. And then I had to figure out the distance where it was comfortable and user-friendly for both taller and shorter people, so it can be easily operated on. I believe that by making my product, I not only improve the safety and efficiency of the workshop, but overall the usability and experiences that the students from now and to the future will have in the woodshop. Thank you. Do my judges have any questions?
I'm just gonna say that's pretty impressive. Thank you.
What are you gonna do now, Robert?
Put in an application in a bunch of different jobs and see which one takes me.
Okay. You wanna continue doing something with construction and woodworking?
That'd be nice.
Obviously, you've got some talent there.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions?
Have the other students been able to use your table yet?
Oh yeah, it's been used a lot. So actually, I was gonna put, as you can see here, a bottom board, but I didn't do that because Mr. Bell said he didn't want me to, because I think he felt the students would just put their projects down there and it would just clutter up and build and take up space. And I was also gonna clean the boards off as well, but then he said not to because students were just gonna mark on it and chip on it and beat on it, and he was right. Like a week after I built it, there was kids that already doodled on it everywhere, and there were pieces that were slightly chipped off. But that makes sense in a work environment with you students that are new to it.
It's very graceful of you.
Thank you.
Good.
Enjoy your day.
Are you?
No, I went after the person's index, which I think Elijah says.
Did you get the one fixed?
Yeah, I think I got it.
Andrew was wondering, he's like, am I really needed or not?
He walked in and I said, hi, it's okay.
I was like, am I actually back to back in this room? I think I am now, okay, so.
I present at 7.
Yeah, I'm here for this one and the next one. So stay here. I'm sure this one, like, I thought I put them all back to back, but no, somehow it didn't work out. So I've been like hanging out in hallways, well, like, quick crazy with them, you know, hanging out.
I'm busy.
It's been 15, 16 years since I've done this.
We won't say that next month is my 20th reunion. We won't say that.
For graduation?
Huh?
For graduation? It's exciting.
Probably after 4 days.
I think that's a good thing. That's, oh, it smells so good earlier. Actually, probably this week. No, it was either the year after me or 2 years before. Yeah, for the first year. So maybe. Are you in here, Linda?
128.
For Elijah?
What time?
6:40.
Oh,
6:40.
no, another week.
It's 6:40? Yeah, okay, because it's 6:30. Time's flying. Yeah, it is really. It honestly has gone by really fast, I think. You hungry? Hungry? Yeah. Is you have to keep it until the last presentation? No, I have 2 more. It's been really interesting to watch. Has everyone done a good job? Very good jobs. Which, I've never, seen the budget. Oh, really? This is my first time around. Have you watched them before this? Never. And so, I mean, when I was in school or something, it came after me. I mean, I walk through the things every year, but yeah, I never watched them. I'm really impressed. There's a lot of work. A lot of work. As you know. Yeah. Just letting you know, everything can be better here on Wednesday. I won her while I was in here, so. You have a seat in where there's some. Okay.
Yes.
Well, I think you sit here because. Yeah. I was gonna, where you, yeah.
You can use it in the ones you do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good, you got it?
Okay, you got your sunglasses. I can help you right here. Don't flash me on it. Go off. Don't copy my Are you real sisters?
No. She's got a gazillion of them, though, doesn't she?
Did you know that? We did that once. Yeah.
Everything awesome.
So my students were like that. My parents are only children. It is. I know, but you make friends. Look at what it sounds like.
Yeah. I don't know, she's stuck with your husband all day with fun and that. Just kidding.
Oh.
Happy?
Yeah.
Glad I don't have to start yet. It's not 6:40 yet. Unless it is.
No,
Okay. I'm gonna enjoy these 2 minutes.
That's right. Enjoy the 2 minutes.
Thanks. Eli, I need to see the socks.
No, that'll be unprofessional.
Yes. That's you.
Thank you.
Can't go over that.
all the judges have a. All the judges have You were the first one to notice it.
We inhale, we do what you want.
I'm just waiting. Enjoying my 2 minutes.
Just 1 minute. I think we're ready.
Is it 6:40?
Yes, it is.
6:40, right? And Miss Beck just said I had 1 minute. You lied?
Now it's 6:00.
Oh. Liar.
Hey.
Okay, whatever. Doesn't matter. Okay. Are my judges ready?
Yes.
Okay. I want you to think about one of your favorite books. It's not that big of a stretch to assume that you're probably thinking of Narnia, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, The Hobbit. It's not out of the ordinary to get lost in the fantasy of these fictional worlds. And on top of that, books can actually provide many good benefits for the brain. So why are video games and live-action role-playing games such as Dungeons & Dragons contracting such controversy? Like a good book, it's easy to get lost in the fiction of games, but games actually take it a step further. You see, it's easier to get immersed in a game because you're performing the actions, making the decisions, and practically are the character. So are games really such a bad thing? Hi, my name's Elijah Riley, and although games can affect people negatively when used negatively, they can also provide many good benefits ranging from mental and emotional to social and even physical. Now, during my growing of the up, my brothers played a lot of games, and I was practically surrounded by games. They would introduce me to things such as Skyrim, Dungeons & Dragons, Crash Bandicoot, Infamous 2, which is really the best game ever created. And they would teach me how to play these games. And over time, I would play them even more, get better, and fall in love even further. And I would fall in love even further, but whatever. Anyways, yeah. Oh, they made me happy. And speaking of happiness, play therapy has been used to help children in psychology since the very beginning of psychology. Children have been shown to benefit from all kinds of play, whether it's something simple like kickball on the playground, something complex like the complexity of Dungeons and Dragons, or some gruesome violent game like Grand Theft Auto 5 or Call of Duty.
Yes.
But the benefits don't stop at just children. Teenagers and even adults have been shown to benefit from all kinds of play. And another type of therapy is exposure therapy in the form of virtual reality. Beginning in the early 2000s, doctors have been using virtual reality to help soldiers, I shouldn't say as much, they've been using virtual reality to help soldiers with post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD. They would put the goggles on the patients and slowly but surely add more and more familiar buildings and sights, sometimes smells, and sometimes there's even a shaking machine that would shake whenever explosions happen. And slowly but surely, these soldiers would eventually get returned to combat. And the complete opposite of that is, well, not exposure therapy. Also with virtual reality, beginning in the early 2000s as well, doctors have been using the virtual game Snow World to help burn victims escape their pain. They would strap on the virtual reality goggles and immerse the burn victims in Snow World, which is a world filled with snow and penguins and snowmen, and allows the players to compete with each other in snowball fights. And interestingly enough, the part of the brain that registers pain is actually completely not active while these players are immersed, which means that nurses can actually wash their harsh wounds. But it doesn't stop at just mental, because there's also social benefits. Role-playing games allow anybody to, well, see the world through someone else's eyes, because you're literally taking the role of someone else. And seeing how the world is in someone else's shoes is good for anybody, really. Earlier I mentioned a means of escape. Role-playing games can also do that. In the form of Dungeons and Dragons, these small groups filled with friends and people with similar interests can actually help people escape social pressure and bullying and stuff of the sorts. All kinds of children who play video games are actually better off than children who don't play video games. It's been shown and proven that children who play video games for up to an hour a day are more social and more cooperative and have better behavior than children who don't play games at all. 2,500 schools across the world have been using the video game Minecraft to teach architecture, mathematics, history, and geography. There's also physical benefits. I'm sure you can tell by my curves that I'm not ripped or shredded, but I have gotten many good benefits for my body. Tetris, I like that, but Tetris has been shown to decrease and sometimes completely fix amblyopia or lazy eyes. What doctors would do in the past was they would put on eye patches on the good eye of people with amblyopia and have them be forced to use their bad eye all the time until eventually they're good with it as well and know how to use it properly. But one doctor discovered a better method was to put on 3D goggles on patients and have them play Tetris for up to an hour a day for 2 weeks. And like I stated, that completely fixes lazy eyes in some cases. Tetris alone has also been shown to decrease drug cravings, or drug addictions, alcohol addictions, tobacco addictions, and coffee and food cravings up to 70%. That's pretty wild. Action games such as Grand Theft Auto 5 or Call of Duty have lead to quicker thinking and better multitasking. Playing games on the computer with a keyboard and mouse leads to far better hand-eye coordination. And there are also exercise games such as Wii Fit, Wii Sports, and Beat Saber that not only encourage but revolve completely around physical activity for gamers. Games can also lead to more jobs, such as a game designer, because if you play games, you know how games work and how they're supposed to work, and game animators, because if you play games, you know how they're supposed to look. It can also lead to the amount of math that goes into Dungeons and Dragons, or really any type of game that has numbers, can lead to children wanting to be mathematicians, like this guy. World building and city building games such as Sims and SimCity and Roller Coaster Tycoon can lead to children wanting to become better engineers, and surgeons who play video games are actually more precise and perform quicker surgeries than surgeons who don't play video games at all, what with the hand-eye coordination. Now, all of this led me to my product, which was simply to host a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. Dungeons and Dragons, if you don't know, is a tabletop role-playing game where you roll dice to perform your actions. The host, or the dungeon master, is in charge of creating the story and providing all of the encounters for the players. And to start this off, I needed a group. Big groups in Dungeons and Dragons is like one of the worst experiences you can have, because if you have like 20 people taking turns over and over and over, a single battle can last up to hours and even days sometimes, and it's not fun. So gather a small group, and I had to create an adventure that my players would enjoy, which was definitely going to be a challenge for me. And then I had to help them make characters to participate and take a role in this adventure that I'm creating. And then eventually I had to actually run the campaign or adventure, and I guess I could observe the effects or whatever. Now, believe it or not, I actually did this, which those of you who know me are probably surprised. But these are pictures from a few of the many sessions that were held, and I can tell you with 100% confidence that my players thoroughly enjoyed the experience. They kept coming back for more. They would look forward to every session. And still today, they come up to me and ask when the next session is going to be, and I have to tell them the project's over, get lost. But overall, it was a success. I did what I wanted to do, provide these people with a good experience and give them benefits such as the escape from social pressure and better confidence and social skills. And over time, I mean, I was hosting it, I was leading their adventure. I could see them improving in these aspects. Overall, it was just a good experience, which was the point. But it's not all sunshines and rainbows, because being a dungeon master is a lot of work. It's a lot of math and it's a lot of work, and it was very challenging. I was not used to this amount of acting and adventure writing and math, but it was extremely enjoyable. But I had to do too much stuff in my eyes. I also had to get everybody's schedule down, because everybody who was in my campaign was a senior. So I had to get around their stupid schedules, as well as my stupid schedule. And that was definitely a challenge. I also had to find the perfect balance between creating a challenging experience for them while also giving them the creative freedom and opportunity to express themselves that I so desperately wanted them to have. I also had to be extremely flexible, because sometimes they would go completely off the script and kidnap a goblin that they had previously injured named Sleazy Joe. And, you know, that definitely wasn't in the notes. But speaking of the notes, sometimes they would go completely out the window, because sometimes they would, you know, kill a boss too early or start a revolution. Yeah, no, that definitely happened. They started a gnome revolution and started eating orcs. I am not kidding. But, you know, they had fun. And that was the point of it all, to have fun. And to get benefits such as mental, emotional, social, physical, and also get a couple job opportunities along the way. And that sounds pretty good to me. Now, what makes me sad is that some people shun or completely dismiss video games and role-playing games as waste of time, not worth the pain it puts people through. And that makes me sad, because like I previously stated, there's a lot of good that can come from games, all types of games. So to the people who have the outlook that it's nothing but bad, I encourage them to maybe change their mind and open it up to the benefits that games can provide. Thank you. Do my judges have any questions? Yes?
You mentioned a couple job opportunities. Can you share about that with us?
Yeah, I believe I stated, do you want me to go to the slide or no?
No, I was just asking, so in your future, is that what you were talking about? That this project led you to a job opportunity?
No, the research that I had made showed me that all types of games can lead to better job, or not better job opportunities, but more job opportunities.
Okay, gotcha.
Just being a complete waste of time.
Okay, thank you.
Yes?
When's the next campaign?
Anyone else?
That Dungeons and Dragons game, how long has that been around? Is that, when did that originate?
For a long time. I don't even remember. I don't even know. I definitely wasn't alive.
I remember people playing it in the 80s, so it's been around.
It was in the 70s.
Like what, the 70s?
Yeah.
The group that you brought together for the challenge, did they have previous gaming experience, or was this just a new experience to see how it could benefit them and you could see a difference in benefits?
They had experience in other games, not necessarily Dungeons and Dragons. I'd say half the group had never played before and the other half had played before.
Did they express any difference?
Yes.
Benefits?
More confidence and more expressive, more creative. Yes?
How do you get in on the gnome revolution?
Do what?
How do you get in on the gnome revolution?
I guess start eating orcs. Yeah.
How many?
I looked on here, 1974 was when it was published.
Rad.
So,
Wow.
There you go. Yes.
How many were in your campaign?
Like I said, I had a small group because the bigger it gets, the more boring it gets. I had about 4 players, sometimes 5. Yes?
In your research, did you find that certain games might have had more benefit than others, or certain types of, disorders? I know sometimes there are disorders and things too. Did you find anything that certain games were better for certain?
The biggest game that I found was definitely Tetris, decreasing drug addictions and cravings and fixing amblyopia. They're lazy eggs.
So you mentioned more than once that when games are played up to an hour, that seems to be beneficial. Did you run across any research that discussed the benefit of playing over an hour? Because I think that's where the negativity comes in, if you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. I can't recall any research that I found beyond that.
So most of the research said up to an hour a day, is that what that's what I heard?
Like at least an hour a day, yeah. Half the sites said up to an hour a day, half said about, or like at least an hour a day. Yes?
Explain the multitasking, please, what you meant about that. Do you mean like playing two different games at the same time, or do you mean like playing a game and doing something else at the same time?
In a lot of action games, you have to focus on multiple different things, like enemies coming at you, or like having to do something while under a lot of pressure. Like in Grand Theft Auto 5 specifically, you could be driving at 100 miles an hour, but also have to check your phone to get the cops off you and stuff like that, and shoot at those. Like I said, violent games, but they can be beneficial.
And so how were you able to quantify the benefits from your participants? Because you mentioned increased sense of confidence and well-being. So did you do like a pre-game questionnaire or something like that, so that, or is it just your observation?
It was pretty much my observation. At first, they were all kind of just quieter and just waiting for the next part to happen. And then very quickly, actually, they got more excited and more confident and more expressive about what they did. Yeah.
Did you find that both males and females had just as much fun and immersion in the games?
Yeah. Okay, people of all ages and all genders have this, you can reap the same benefits. Thank you. Okay, but do you want to? This is your time.
He's always really
Okay, what do you want? Well, on my end, I didn't know what.
Hopefully it comes up where it's supposed to. Thank you.
No, I don't know how to do that.
I have a little bit of time.
You know how to fix it? Okay.
Yeah.
She'll take care of it for me.
To ask. Okay.
What time is
It's, we're gonna wait till they get logged in.
That's fine. I was just.
You're just ready to go, aren't you?
I started teaching.
No. Okay, what I did is, I just asked it to go on. Did you see it?
You're in the right place.
Yeah, I saw the title on the research paper, so I wasn't quite sure.
Oh, okay.
I was in the right place. I just said in public because it's wrong. She's looking at it.
You can see if you want to.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, it shouldn't take too long.
I'm gonna go ahead and apologize for my voice. I haven't been able to speak properly since last Thursday, so bear with me.
Softball games didn't help.
No, lots of screaming.
Is she gonna walk into this one?
Are you all good to go? Okay. Okay, Pinky's ready now, so we can.
That's
what matters.
That's right.
Not the kids' technology.
Are my judges ready?
Yes.
Parenting can be a very difficult job in the world today. Not only is it a very difficult job, but it is an extremely important one. How parents raise their children can mean a whole new future for not only those individuals, but everyone around them. After all, children are the future era and should be valued and cared for as much as possible to ensure the best outcome imaginable. Hi, I'm Chloe Chapin, and without that love and stability in a home, a nightmare of chaos and bewildering trauma can overtake that child's world. This is why it is so important in providing parental connections such as support, guidance, and love. Now, when thinking about what I wanted to do for a research project, I knew that I wanted it to be somewhat sentimental to me while being interesting and even benefiting my future career. Now, growing up, I have always had a family that has been there for me. They've always supported me, loved me, and provided me with everything I've ever needed to live a really happy life and have everything I've needed. Now, I've also known that this hasn't always been the case for some of my fellow classmates, and it would show in how they acted at school, and their behavioral issues might have been a little worse. So with my research, I wanted to better understand their background. As well, I wanted my research to be interesting, so I did indeed apply it to my future career, which I wish to be an elementary school teacher, and so with my research, I wanted something to apply to my classroom. So I looked up parental connections and the different backgrounds of parenting styles and how it would affect a kid. While conducting my research, I found that certain building blocks needed to be established. Children need a sense of security. They need love and they need affection and they need a good home and or foundation. Now, how do you go about obtaining that? You need to create a positive relationship with your child. Let your child know that you are there for them, that you love them, and that you are a safe place to come home to, and that they can rely on you and trust you. And through that, you can encourage their optimal development, which is their communication skills and how they handle problems. So if they are coming to you as a child, you are an influence on them and you are a positive influence. So if they are coming to you with their issues, they have someone better to look up to than, say, a fellow classmate who might not have those parental connections and might do bad things such as drinking alcohol, because we don't want our kids to have bad influences and we don't want them going to those people. We want them coming to us. And how do you go about creating that positive relationship? Actions. Actions speak greater than words could ever. Go to your child's basketball game, softball game, baseball, chess club, or drama club, anything like that. Be there for them. Whenever they come home, ask them how their day was and make an attempt to play board games with them or go outside and throw a ball, play catch. Be involved in their life and let them know that this is a safe place. When they get in trouble, explain to them why. They are growing and learning as they go, and they do need to understand that. So actions and positive relationship will always improve your relationship with your child to ensure that they have a good home. Not only does parental love impact a child, but there have also been test results to prove this. Results from a preparatory analysis bring to attention the variability in how parental love can be demonstrated. Now, with one of these experiments, they took a group of children and they asked them what they viewed parental love as being. Now, there was a common theme with this, and this being a safe environment where love, affection, and care was demonstrated in the outermost ways. In another experiment, they asked a group of 5 children, aged 6 through 8, to give a story about a caring parent and an uncaring parent. Now, one of the boys in this experiment compared his theoretical uncaring parent to the feeling of someone dying. So we all know what it is like to lose a loved one or someone close to you. And with this experiment, you can really see what those kids view an uncaring parent as being, or an unsafe home. Now, one of the little girls in the experiment viewed her theoretical caring parent to physical closeness or touch, and she did so through drawing a picture of a mom hugging her baby girl. Now, looking at this evidence, you can see how important it is to love your child and give them that safe sanctuary that they can come home to, because a home without it, you can see how it can affect them. Continuing on with why a home should have love and security, there are very many traumatic experiences that can be shaped with a home to little of none of this. For instance, a child's cognitive, emotional, and physical functions can be disrupted from traumatic experiences. So essentially, it can affect their development. By this, I mean it can affect how they view things or what they think about on a daily basis. When a child is ultimately bullied, screamed at, and maybe even abused at home, it can cause them to act out in school, have bad behavioral issues in public places, express suicidal thoughts, and maybe even make threats towards other people or students. Now, this can also affect what colleges they are going to go to or what workplaces will actually accept them. Because if a kid has bad behavioral issues in school, then a college might not want them at their school, or a workplace might not want them working for them because of those issues and how they're going to react in that environment. Now, traumatic experiences can also have an effect on learning capabilities, and one of the more obvious reasons is that focus. Instead of focusing on what a teacher is actually presenting to them, they're going to be focused on that traumatic experience that either happened that day or later that night, instead of actually paying attention to what's being taught. As well, the bad behavioral issues can lead to detentions or maybe even suspensions. So instead of being in that classroom setting with their fellow classmates, they're off somewhere else not getting the proper education that they need. Now, there can also be health effects to this, long-term and short, ranging anywhere from diabetes to heart disease. As well, substance abuse disorders is one of the effects to traumatic experiences, and it is a bad thing. We all know what drugs can do to people, and if you are in a home where traumatic experiences happen, it might be the only thing they look to and turn to. So we do not want those children to go down that path. Looking at this, it is very important to see that parents need to provide a loving home for their children. They need to provide a safe sanctuary. Now, for my project, I hosted a girls' night out for 3rd and 4th grade girls and their moms or mom figures. Now, the purpose for my event was I wanted moms to kind of get away from that everyday life of going to work, coming home, cooking, cleaning, or everything that moms do. And I wanted to actually give them the chance to develop that positive relationship with their little girl. And I did this through bonding activities. Now, my event was hosted on November 11th in the elementary cafeteria from 6:30 until 8 o'clock. And then after everyone went home, we had like an hour and a half-ish for cleanup time. Now, what we actually did in my event was I had a bunch of different stations set up. So I had a photo booth to where the kids could take photos in front of it. I had snacks and I had drinks. I had a nail painting station. I had regular painting. I had a noodle station where they could make bracelets and necklaces with each other. And then I also had hula hoops and jump roping. I had cornhole, ring toss, and I also had ladder toss. So I had more than plenty of activities for everyone to do, and in the end, it turned out way better than I could have ever imagined. I was only expecting maybe 50 people to show up, and I had over 100. So as you can see, it was a really good result. I had lots of positive feedback, especially from the moms. The moms would come up to me and they would tell me, Chloe, I want to thank you for having this event because I really don't have time to just sit down with my kid and have a good time with them. So this really gave me the opportunity to do so. And so I had a lot of positive feedback from the moms, and I was able to conversate with them and kind of see what their home was like. As well, I have an A+ class. I am in the 4th grade with Mrs. Picard, and whenever I am walking through the halls, I will have some of the little girls from my event come up and actually give me hugs because they recognize me from that event. So in the end, I wouldn't change a thing, and it was so much fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, even though my event did go how I wanted it to, I did have some challenges. Planning for COVID was one of those. I had to stress about whether or not I would have enough people even come, which I did, but I still stressed about it. But also I had to space out my stations to where it would be safe, and then I provided masks as well as hand sanitizer for the moms and anyone who would want them. And then I also had to write a permission slip, which I've never done that, and so I had to bring to attention that this would be a public setting and that there would be a bunch of people, and so I kind of had to have that warning. As well, one of my challenges was cleaning the backdrops for my photo section. So I had 3 doors and they were caked in mud, and it probably took me 30 minutes to clean all 3 of them. So that was a little bit stressful, but I did get it done and it looked great, and I'll show you a picture of it on the next slide. Lastly, getting supplies was a big challenge for me because there was a lot of stuff that I had to get, snacks included. And I had to make a trip to Walmart, and I had to have a lot of people help carry things in and help me set up so I could get everything done. My mentor and my mom were very big helps to this because my mom helped me load everything into the truck, and then my mentor, as well as her and myself, unloaded everything and got it all set up. Altogether, parenting is something to be taken very seriously. Children are our future, and what we do to raise them is going to matter. So what is our future going to look like? It is going to be up to our parents. Thank you. Do my judges have any questions? Yes.
How do you see this project helping you with your future job of a school teacher?
Okay, so with this event, I did have a bunch of little kids, and I was able to kind of see how they interacted with their parents and whatnot, and I want to be able to apply that to my classroom so that I can kind of better understand like different kids and how I can help them in a classroom setting, because I want to do my best as a teacher and I want to actually benefit them. And I did get to talk to some of the moms about their kids and what they do, and so it was very beneficial. Yes?
What grade do you want to teach?
I would like to teach 4th grade. So I really like my 4th graders this year, and I feel like they're kind of older, but I don't know. I have a lot of fun with my 4th graders, so it's cool.
In looking at parenting, and you've included the female, was there any reason you did not go to both?
Yes. Okay, so the reason I only did girls was because of money, because I did buy all the supplies for my event, such as snacks and stuff, and I also wanted to make sure we had enough room, so I kind of had to pick and choose which one, or else I would have absolutely loved to have both of them there, because I feel like having the moms and the dads and then the daughters and sons would have been just such a tremendous event and really benefited my product, but I just didn't have the time, space, or money. So if in the future, if I could do an event like that, I would absolutely love it. Yes?
You must have awesome parents and a beautiful mom.
I do. That looks like me too, so I mean.
Did this change your mind anything about parenting, like maybe corporal punishment or something along those lines? Did it change your mind on anything, preconceived notions you had about parenting?
Well, honestly, my parents, you guys, I feel like you guys, the way you parented, did a really good job, because whenever I got in trouble, they would spank me, but it wouldn't be anything harsh. It would just be to kind of let me know, like, this isn't right. Like, what you did is bad. Like, there's going to be consequences for that. But they did explain to me why I was in trouble, and it wasn't ever past the point of abuse. So, did I answer your question, or?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do I have any others? Okay. Thank you. Yes, you can again. Thank you guys for coming out. Thank you for coming out. Thank you.
You did well.
Yes, very good.
Hey, Doug. Alright.
Good, how are you?
Did you make Chloe's husband?
Huh?
This is her husband.
No.
The next one? Yeah. Don't have names.
I should have just. Ray Paul Blank. Did you escape? I did. And I pushed it.
I had one question.
Okay. Well, I did, and that's, that's the first one.
So that she can do her connection.
Well, all right.
I'm just making sure.
Yeah. Right here.
I got to tell you that.
She mentioned her research. Her research sheet. You don't have time for that.
Do you need anything? What? Do you need anything? No. Whenever you speak, if you want to stand behind that white line.
Some of them have started over there and then moved, so it's up to you, but eventually the camera can.
Okay. No, that's it.
Okay. I remember your pretty red dress from mom, it's just beautiful.
Thank you.
So pretty. I love the way it's sparkling.
It gets cold and then it gets warm.
I gotta break under it again. That's why it's set if you want to. Get ready. Down.
Got used to golf before.
Are my judges ready?
Yes.
Picture a young fifth grade girl sitting at a desk, completely overwhelmed. She feels this new feeling of anxiety that she's never felt before. Suddenly, every problem is becoming more and more difficult, and she no longer feels like she can do her work. She suddenly realizes her education feels like it's coming to an end. Then she begins playing music and she learns how to play the flute. Suddenly her academic grades improve and suddenly her life changes. She suddenly wants to go to school and she feels more happy and wants to be around others more. This young 5th grade student was only me when I was in 5th grade. Hi, my name is Braylee Zimmerman, and music is a major component of life and education that provides many physical, social, and psychological benefits. What led me to my research and my project was my love for music. I have been in band ever since I was in 5th grade, and I have loved it very much ever since. I have played flute and piccolo, but I started out with flute, and my music teacher found that I accelerated fairly quickly, so she offered me to join a flute choir where I played with high school students, high school professors, college students at only a middle school level. Education is also a large part of my life, and I always strive for the hardest classes so that I can do my best education-wise, and I plan to hopefully do music in the future because music has been a huge part of my educational experience. After realizing the effect that music has on me, I decided to look into how it has affected others. And it has affected others throughout history, and it has for many, many years. Music has been prevalent in Jewish temples and many religions since the beginning of time, and Native American tribes and Chinese traditions include music. Music is found in lots of different cultures, in religions, in churches, played at games. Music is pretty much everywhere, so it is a huge part of our lives. And music also provides a sense of unity in trauma. World War II soldiers listened to music after coming home from World War II so that they could cope with their trauma instead of enduring the hardships that they faced during war. So music has a direct effect on the brain. And researchers find that musicians actually have a better developed corpus callosum, which is the region of the brain associated with intelligence. And so it is found that they are more likely to use that part of the brain. And there are chemicals in the brain that are produced when music is played, such as endorphins and dopamine. And these are feel-good chemicals in the brain that allow relaxation and de-stress. Music also has the ability to elicit activation in particular regions of the brain and in neural pathways. So music can affect emotion, memory, and other things such as that. Music also has effect on the heart rate and the brain and how well it can function at work. Slower paced songs are more likely to calm the brain and slow things down, and faster and more exciting beats are able to uplift and make someone excited. So music is also able to heal many people and patients. There are many people that face struggles with anxiety and depression, and because of the effect that music has, they are able to find a sense of healing and treatment for that. So music therapy has been used for centuries to calm people down with stress that they face daily, and it is prevalent in many hospitals for physical and mentally disabled patients. So music also helps the learning disabled, and it activates parts and regions in their brain that other things are unable to. So music has been found to help patients that struggle to actually respond and to learn much easier and associate information with sounds and songs. So music is very prevalent in education, and it has the ability to facilitate memory. A study finds that 96 students that were in first grade listened to music as they studied, and they were found to be more creative and had better academic grades after listening to music. Music has also been proven to increase students' desire to learn, and they have more keys to remember, and they're determined to do the best that they can and keep pushing forward. So what I did for my project was a 3.5-minute audio clip, and I played a song with 3 different instruments. And I chose this project because I wanted to see the effect that music had on me and my brain. And I know that music has really reduced my anxiety, so I wanted to choose a project that didn't stress me out and instead helped me, and hopefully helped others as they listen to my music. I also wanted to learn new programs and technology that I do not currently know, so that I can produce songs in the future for other people to listen to. So I began my project with step 1. This is where I learned and also transposed music. I started with a flute trio called Twilight, composed by Herman Beefton, and I transposed it into clarinet and saxophone using the chart you see up here. It took me a few months to learn saxophone and clarinet since I had never touched those before, but after learning all the right notes and producing a good tone quality, I was finally able to create a good enough sound to record. So then I moved on to step 2, which was recording. I recorded using an app called GarageBand and with a microphone. So I did not have much, but I did layer several layers of music, as you can see over there. And I began with a flute part, and then I layered clarinet on top of it, and then finally saxophone. And I decided to do these in chunks. And after re-recording and putting it all together, I moved on to the next step, which was editing. This is where I moved the audio file to BandLab, which was a different app that allowed me to edit more with more features. This is where I changed the dynamics of the certain instruments, and I found that saxophone actually overpowered flute and clarinet, so I had to bring volume down on that. And I also took a lot of time just messing with all these dials and things because I had never tried that before. And I also added certain effects, and I also added chimes in certain parts where I saw a needed fit. But even though my product turned out pretty great in my opinion, I did face many challenges. At first I had no idea what to pick. I spent hours searching for a song with just flute, clarinet, and saxophone, and I wanted to pick a piece that was soothing and calm, but also challenged me and showed off my ability to play as a musician. But I overcame that by learning something new and doing something that I've never done before in transposing. So I had to do that instead. I also had many sicknesses. I had COVID in January, and then I had a cold, and then the flu, and so sicknesses came one after the other. So the sicknesses came as soon as I was trying to record. So it was very difficult for me to record and produce the tone quality that I had learned. But after I had done that, I felt that it did turn out pretty great. And I also learned perseverance, and I had to persevere through being sick, but I was able to do it in the end and re-record. I also did not have the professional equipment that professional musicians do have in music creation. So if I were to have better equipment, I may have been able to make a better song, but we did not have that at Willow Springs High School, so I did best with what I had. I also had a metronome in there that I wanted to take out. We thought we could, but we didn't. So I had to learn to dial something really low and try to cover it up. This is where I learned to cover up my mistakes and do it to the best of my ability. But even though I faced many challenges, this product did turn out great. Music is a huge part of our lives, and it helps us daily and in education. Without music, that young 5th grade girl would not be where she stands today, and she would have no way to deal with her anxiety. Thank you. Do my judges have any questions? Yes.
Did you say you had a recording of this?
Yes, it's actually on this slide, so if you click it.
Yes, please. What are they?
That's what I was gonna ask too.
Right, let's do that.
I have a question. The original song only had the flute?
Yeah, it's a flute trio, and so I used the second flute for the clarinet, and then the last flute for the saxophone.
But you had not played those other instruments?
No, I've never touched them before, so that was a little bit difficult. Yes.
Do you see anything you learned through this project being useful in your future life?
Yeah, I learned a lot of editing features, and I hope to create songs in the future so that I can listen to them and show them to others instead of just playing just only in person. So that'll be good. Yes.
In the future, Braylee, do you think you'll go, because I noticed throughout this, you stuck with primarily woodwind instruments, which I know that's what you're experienced with. In the future, though, do you think you'll, maybe just for the fun of it or professional, whatever you decide to do, expand that a little bit, maybe go into percussion or brass or anything else?
Yeah, I think I might, because I actually learned that I picked up instruments fairly quickly. Flute actually took me several months, but these ones didn't take as long as it did for flute. So,
In your research, you said that the first graders, the music improved a lot of their learning. What kind of music did they listen to?
they listen to like Mozart and Albarn, so soothing soft sounds played in the background really helps students because it not only quiets them, but it allows them to focus on the material and the music and associate that all together.
Not hard rock.
Yeah.
I have a question about, you mentioned those with mental disabilities and how music helps them, like if they're listening to it.
Mm-hmm.
So did you do any research on the type of music that was best for, people that have mental disabilities to listen to?
Yeah, I did find that it was kind of like concert band, like stuff like Mozart and Albani, because those really do calm and just like create a good relaxed feeling.
Okay.
Great job. Good job.
I do have one other question. I mean, it's not just for you, but do you plan on doing something with music in the future?
Yeah, I hope to maybe play in college in a band or orchestras maybe. So, yeah. Thank you. It's good to see you. Good job, Braylee.
Yeah, good.
Oh, you're a backseater.
Oh, yeah.
I think I would have felt more comfortable back there too. I'm not doing that.
Have you had trouble keeping it
Here's your magic clicker.
Yeah.
You're welcome. You need to sit till we get ready. I don't know. I just put them back in the box, so, and sometimes they, I don't know.
Austin, is Cindy your mom?
Cindy? Yeah.
Okay, well, you have her hair color. These kids grow up too fast.
He's my neighbor.
Oh.
Was your neighbor, yes. His mom married Brandon Beck.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, so before it starts, how is that having a stepdad for a weatherman?
It's
A weatherman.
interesting.
Pardon me?
It's interesting.
I bet.
Yeah.
Is he as funny at home as he is?
He's exactly like he is.
Yeah. My son actually played football for a homeschool team for the Chargers at the same time his kids did. It's been a few years ago.
Yeah. Cause I know his youngest graduated last year, so.
Yeah.
One of his kids plays the pianos really well. I don't know which one, but it's been several years ago that he posted it on Facebook. And playing at a concert. You'll have to ask him.
So I don't know which one that would be.
I don't know either. One of them looks just exactly like him. Okay. Now she will.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
Looks just exactly like him with hair.
Yeah. The other day, I saw a picture of him with hair, like this was like back in the 90s.
He looked different.
Yeah, 'cause he had like a lot of hair. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't have much hair during our Charger playing days.
Yeah. Whenever I saw that picture, I turned to him and asked him, what happened?
It was that weather. That probably caused a lot of stress.
Probably.
Okay. Pinky's ready. The last one. So I guess you're on, Austin.
Yep. Okay. Are my judges ready? Yep. So, growing up, I always looked up to my dad. He was easily the biggest role model in my life. And as I've gone through his days alongside him, and we've gone on numerous adventures through the real estate world, it's really been eye-opening, and it's been very, very interesting. My name is Austin Tuley. My product and the name of my slideshow is Missouri Real Estate Statistics, and it is a website. So, me and my dad, we always enjoyed going and exploring and going and traveling everywhere. And so whenever he got his real estate license, we had decided to do that, but with houses. So anytime he needed to go to a house, or he needed to go show a house, or he needed to meet with buyers and stuff, I would go with him and I would see what it was like. And so for the past couple of years, I've been helping him with that. and it's been really, really fun, and it's inspired me to want to have real estate as my career. And watching him do that, I don't know exactly what it brought out in me, but it brought out just something that made me love real estate. And it's a very interesting field. It's always changing. You meet new people all the time. It just seems like the type of thing that I would like to do. The real estate market has a massive economical importance on both the US government and our economy and the world economy as a whole. So when the 2008 recession hit, whenever that whole thing started, that was spurred on by the real estate market. And it just proved how big of an impact it has. 31.5% of state taxes in 2016 were property taxes, and it generated $505 billion for the US government to use. And at the local tax level, it generated $489 billion and made up 72% of all local government taxes. And that further proves its economical importance both to the government and to the world government, as you could call it. As I've been talking about the tax importance, between 1989 and 2009, there had been a decrease in income tax by 10.1% over that 20-year gap, a decrease in sales tax by 4.3%, and a increase in property tax, by 6.1% over each and every year. And between 2007 and 2012, during the recession, the property taxes ended up jumping 15.1% over that whole 5-year period. The IT field in real estate has been booming as of recently. Back in 2019, it was worth $6.16 billion, and by 2025, that is expected to double. Right now, it's still on course. And new apps such as SAP Cloud, which basically what SAP Cloud is, it's a real-time manager for real estate managers, lease managers, and they can all just use that in real time over the internet. And Hutch is a virtual interior design app, which you can basically design your house before you even move in. So all the heavy stuff, you already know where exactly you want to put it, so you don't need to put it down and then think about it and then decide to put it somewhere else. So my website, I needed to do a bunch of prior research, and it took me about a week, and then after I found that research, I was able to get my project approved, which, as I had said at the very beginning, my project is a website, which deals in real estate charts. So my website is laid out into 4 different pages. So we have the home page, which has all of the data that I was able to collect, which the data includes farmland prices per acre, dating back all the way to 1912. And with that, I was able to do a deep dive of an analysis portion. And I was able to basically take everything I found, figure out what kind of event could have caused like a fall or an increase. So any massive jumps or decreases, I would basically go and try to find out why those had happened. I have the actual everything I learned. So everything that I had discovered over the course of me doing the analysis portion. I had put on there and everything I found out based on like my outside research of what could have happened, I had put on there. And then I have the about page, which for anyone who doesn't know why I had made the website, I basically tells them everything they need to know, how to get in contact with me, everything. And I was only able to find farmland prices per acre, but the fact that I was able to trace it back that far, it was extraordinary to me, because I didn't think I would be able to, I thought the farthest I could go back was maybe the 40s. So whenever I got all the way back to 1912, I was very, very pleased. I wanted the project originally to be used for people to, if I had decided to, like, if I was able to find what the trends could be and if they could be useful, then people could use that to help them navigate the upcoming real estate fields. So if I had found that 2 events in correlation had caused the same kind of increase, then I could guess that if that event happened again, it would cause another increase. And I had basically taken all of that and I wanted to make everybody who used the website be able to easily learn and then take what I had found and be able to help them go through navigate through real estate smoothly. Benefits: it helps anybody who uses the website because they are able to actually learn more about real estate and navigate the real estate field. It helped me because I had never made a website prior to this. This was the first time I had ever made a website of any kind. So that was a brand new experience. And it also helped me learn more about the real estate field, which is going to be very, very useful as I'm going to be a real estate agent. The overall experience was really, really fun. I enjoyed it personally. I know some of my classmates didn't, but I thought that it was pretty helpful. It taught me more about my field of interest. It showed me things that I didn't know how to do. And it was just interesting to find out all of this new stuff. My challenges. I was very, very inexperienced for this. Luckily, I had a good enough mentor, that being Andrew Corson, to help guide me through making a website, and it helped lessen the damage and the amount of time it took for me to make this by a lot. Any problems I encountered, I would go and I would talk to him, see if he had anything that he could help me with, because he's the one who made the school website. And I really, really like how he had made that. And the research availability. I wanted to find a lot of housing prices, but I couldn't find enough for me to warrant actually diving into it. I could only trace it back to the 70s. And I mainly thought it would take away from what I have found, so I left it there. And the research that I had gathered, the main research that I had gathered, took me until December before I was finally able to get everything and then begin working on the website itself. So, in conclusion, this has been a very, very helpful experience. It has proven to be useful, it has proven to be entertaining, and it has proven to be fun. Occasionally, sometimes it wasn't fun. And overall, I honestly liked it. I thought I could have done better on my website. Looking back on it, I could have done a lot better. But for everything that I knew when I started it, I'm happy with what I got. And I'm happy with how it all turned out. And here are some screenshots of my website. It's a bit bigger than what it is on here, but it is still a decent sample size. Thank you for your time. Do my judges have any questions? Ladies first.
Okay. I was curious, do you remember any of the stats on the prices from 1912?
From 1912, the prices for farm one per acre, it was, I believe, $47 per acre. Yeah.
Amazing.
So you told me that you wanted to do this as your career field in the future. Do you think you'll stick around here, or do you think maybe you'll go somewhere else?
I'm going to be going to college up in Springfield.
Oh, okay.
So I'll be getting my real estate license more than likely while I'm up there.
All right.
If I can get it before I go up there, what I want to do is, if my dad sticks around, I want to go into business with him. And for at least 5 years, I want to work with him and go through real estate with him a bit more. And then I'll eventually probably end up moving to a bigger city and trying to have more opportunities.
Very nice.
Do you plan to add more to your website?
Yeah, I do plan on keeping it running and adding more to it as I can find it over time.
I'm not sure if I'll confuse you or not, but I was thinking, when you had said in your paper that different impacts of different events, did you mention any different events that affects the real estate industry and the economy of it?
Yeah.
I must not have heard that.
I didn't mention exactly the specific events, but some of the specific events that I found was the World Wars had a massive impact. The Depression had a bigger impact than I thought. The recession, the 2008 recession, surprisingly didn't do as much damage as I thought it had. It was very, very surprising. I thought it would have done a lot more, but there was a 2-year decrease, and then it just shot right back up. But the Depression, it was down for, I think, 11 years, and then it finally started increasing again.
Did you find any research about COVID being one of those events that impacted your information you found?
I didn't dive into COVID because I only had 2020 and 2021, but it was still increasing even during COVID. So I didn't.
The prices were increasing for the farmland?
Yeah, they were still increasing. So I didn't think to really dive into that.
So the 2008 recession was caused by
the real estate market.
The inflated real estate market?
Yeah, because the real estate market had...
The housing bubble?
Yeah, the real estate market had crashed in 2006.
Right.
And then it caused the 2008 recession.
Yeah, and it crashed because it was a bubble.
Yeah, yeah.
Busted. And did you, in your research, did you find that where the banks had responsibility in some of that?
Yeah, I had found that. I had included it in my research paper.
Yeah, so, looking at past history, could that happen again?
I think it is very, very likely, because from what I know now, the banks are still pretty invested into real estate. So I could totally see that kind of a recession happening again. I don't know exactly when, but I wouldn't be surprised if it happens within the next 20 years.
Yeah.
Do I have any other questions?
Nice job.
Thank you.
When I use the mouse, it wants to highlight everything in blue, so then I'm trying to just do this, and it's, I don't know.
No, I think we're almost done.
Yeah, it's still not working. Want me to do it? Still,
I have a question. I'll bring it, you can have it.
what?
I don't know. I don't know.
Is it okay to go ahead and shoot it on this one?
So you did,
No.
you did submit it, then you're fine, yeah.
Yeah, because it, for some reason, it would, yeah, it seems like it was really.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Thank you.
I don't know. I can't help you on that.
Which one was it?
I'm confused on the rest.
So what the dress option is, there's like one option on the bottom, one option on the top, but we had to fill in the middle. So like either they're fully dressed or not dressed appropriately.
But like it says, students single line, it says you're supposed to have a tie. Clear, and then it says students.
So like, yeah, so either they're like, so it's like a yes or no type thing.
Sorry. Okay.
Because we had to allow for.
It says here.
Yeah, so I would imagine so, yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Definitely go right back.
Okay. I'll get out of your way, get my phone. Sorry.
My finger will go faster.